People ask me why do I fight a case when a government does not allow me in, and I said to them 3 reasons. First, is my relationship with the United States is not with its government, it's with its people. I know it sounds corny, but I have professional relationship, I have personal relations with the Americans, which I have continued for 15, 20 years, and I will continue. And no government is going to tell me that I'm not entitled to have those relationships. The second is, the United States is a second home for me. It's not, I want to immigrate here, but it is a place where, for me, home is not where passport is out, or where you roll out the flag. It's where memories are made. And given the fact that this is, other than South Africa, the only other place where I lived for a fair period of time, 3 years when I was doing my PhD, it's a place where I have memories. It's where my son was conceived. It's where I played with him in Central Park trying to feed the ducks. It's where I took my children to Disney World. It's where we go to where we have favorite places to eat in New York City, in Chinatown, and in Manhattan. These are places in Queens, in all of these places. This is where I have memories. And for me, no government should be able to deny me without any due cause the right to visit a place where I have memories. But thirdly, and most importantly, it seems to me that this is the case. That is the struggle of our future. In a more integrated world, our struggles of solidarity are going to have to be constructed on an international plane, and they're going to be based on principle. This is a case fought by American lawyers, where the litigants are American institutions, fought against the American government for a South African to be heard. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. It's solidarity action in practice that transcends national boundaries. And it's principle, because many of these people don't know who I am. They've heard me, but they don't know, they're not friendly with me, it's not personal. They're standing on principle. Some of them disagree with some of my views, but they stand on issues of principle. And it seems to me that these are the struggles of the future. When Ethiopian academics are being hassled in Ethiopia, or Iranian academics are being hassled, the only way we're going to bring this to bear, pressure to bear, how are we going to protect them, is with solidarity actions that cross national boundaries. And it seems to me that that's crucial, and this is one exemplar of the kinds of struggles of our future. I think it's a combination of struggles. I think it would never have happened had the ACLU not played and gone to court. I think that they played a fantastic role in this regard, and I'm thankful to them. I think it would never have happened without a number of civic organizations and academic organizations in the United States being heard on this and serving as litigants. I think it would never have happened without the numbers of letters that went into the State Department and to the White House complaining about this issue, including by presidents of South African universities and organizations and cabinet ministers, and the South African government raising it. I think that this was a product of struggle. It might sound corny, but it took 3.5 years of struggle. And I was lucky that there were people willing to be heard on this issue. And we're heard on this issue that allowed this to happen. And that's something that's worth bearing in mind. There are countless of people who were not lucky enough to have their case heard.
Do you think the Obama administration has anything to do with it?
I think in part, I don't think this would have happened under the Bush administration. I think it's the factor that the Obama administration is more human rights centered. It is aware of these issues. It is susceptible to these issues. I think is important. But I do think that this administration has to follow through. It's a wonderful thing that you've done with regards to Tariq Ramadan and myself. But you really need to move forward and repeal these ideological exclusion. You need to get rid of renditions. You need to get rid of Abu Ghraib. You need to get rid of Guantanamo Bay. You need to get rid of these things. You cannot re-establish the human rights foundation, the core values of the American Constitution, without going back and repealing some of the devastating things that the Bush regime was responsible for. And I know that's difficult in the political circumstances here. But if you try and appease the right, you'll allow the system to shift further to the right, to the detriment not only of Americans but the rest of the world. It is important that the liberal intelligentsia, it's important that the intelligentsia be heard and be principled enough to take a stand and say, these things violate civil liberties, they violate who we are, and we will not allow this to happen. That important struggle doesn't have to happen only in South Africa, in the United States. It has to happen in South Africa, and it has to happen across the world, and we need to start doing this, and we need to banding together. Progressives from the United States, South Africa, Africa, Europe, all over need to come together and to be heard on these questions.
Now, you mentioned a special thing that, well, you had a lot of support from the ACLU, all these people, letter writing campaigns and such. What about the people who are just denied a visa and they don't have that kind of backing, and they're denied entry into the United States because they cannot speak, because of their ideologies, their ideas and such?
I think that's absolutely the point.
Well, first of all, is it happening right now? And second of all, what to do?
Well, it is happening right now because I've heard it. I've heard people call me and say that they were deported or their visas they were not given visas without any explanation. I know lots of scholars where this thing. There was I can't remember the name, but there's a body, there's a journal that comes out on the behalf of university academics coming out of the United States, the Chronicle of Higher Education, that covered a series of scholars 2 years ago, 35 scholars that were excluded. I know tons of people that I've met in South Africa that have been excluded. And so of course it's happening. The big question is, how do we get them heard? I got lucky. I was really lucky because of this case was heard, it reached the newspapers, both in South Africa and the United States. I mean, academic associations stood up, the ACLU took up the case, but there's countless of individuals that are not heard. And it's important, the only way we truly can say this is a democratic society, it's a human rights centered society, that it is not a society where arbitrary political action is made. The only way that that can be said is if those voiceless people, the people who are not reaching the newspapers, if their cases are taken up. And that's why it's so incumbent on the Obama administration to do something for the voiceless who have not been heard on this question.